Hi, I'm Mel's best friend, and this is my second episode of Computers for Dummies. Like, my actual second episode. I did make a joke video. Okay. Why is my computer acting like it installed a potato driver? I said potato instead of graphics card. But whatever. So, you see, this video is going to be a tutorial on how to dual boot Ubuntu and Windows. What that means is have both Ubuntu and Windows on your computer at the same time and being able to choose which one you want when you boot your computer. Which I know sounds like, if you told a noob that, you might think that's breaking the rules of computers. When really, it really isn't. So you see, in case you don't know what Ubuntu is, it is a Linux distro. Linux is a family of computer operating systems, well, technically a kernel. Like, Linux is a kernel used by many different computer operating systems. These operating systems are mainly used for development purposes. And just so you know, I'm going to release a lot of programs I have planned for the future exclusively for Linux. Some of them will be available for macOS and Windows as well. But one of my biggest projects I'm planning on making, I actually had to cancel the macOS version and the Windows version. So that one's going to be exclusively for Linux. So you're going to want to follow this tutorial if you want to get some of my programs I'm going to make. Because I'm sure some of you who've been viewing Mel's Back's Friend for a long time know that I am a programmer. And like I said, this tutorial we're going to be showing you how you can have both Ubuntu and Windows on your computer at the same time. And the reason why I'm saying we should do this with Ubuntu out of all the other operating systems that use Linux, Ubuntu is one that's easy for noobs to use. Like, one operating system that you might be surprised to hear is a Linux distro. Android is a Linux distro. Android is the only Linux distro I can think of that is easier to use than Ubuntu. Well, actually, I guess Chrome OS is as well, but, like, you know, there's not that much you can do with Chrome OS. So, here are the things you're going to need. So, as you can see, this is a nearly fresh installation of Windows. A nearly fresh installation of Windows from, like, on, like, a hard drive that I put in my computer just for this video. A hard drive that was completely wiped that I put in my computer just for this video. Sorry, there's a little bit of stuff on... No, it's a dead pixel, that's what that is. Yeah, my laptop screen really isn't that good. So you see, you're going to need... So here are the things you're going to need. You're going to need a flash drive, first of all. It has to be at least 4 gigabytes. I have this 16 gigabyte flash drive. I know it's hard to believe it's a flash drive with how small it is. Yeah, usually when you think of a flash drive, you'd think of something like this. Like, one of the programs we're using even has a flash drive like this as the icon. But, nope, we're going to be using this flash drive instead, because this one has more storage than that other one. The other one's 8 gigabytes. But yeah, so you want to plug the flash drive into your computer. Oh, sorry, I messed up the camera. And then run this program called Rufus. I'll put a link in the description to download Rufus. And just wait for it to open. It will ask for your admin privileges because it gets access to the raw data of a storage device, meaning it needs to be an admin. Because, like, obviously you need to be an admin to access the raw data of a storage device. Okay, I think it's just being slow because I know this hard drive is slower than the one I normally have in there. It's a regular hard drive that has 8 megabytes of cache instead of a hybrid drive with, I think, 128 megabytes of cache. It might be 64, but I think it's 128. Yeah, this is the drive I normally have in there. But instead I have a much lower performing drive in there right now. Just for the video. Taking so long to launch. You know what I'm just gonna do? I'm just gonna kill it and launch it again. Task Manager's taking a while to load too. Taking a while for it to kill Rufus. That just sounds weird. Let's try running Rufus again. Yeah, it's allowed to check for updates, although I don't think there are any, as I just downloaded this literally right before I started recording. So it'll choose a device if you have any more than one storage device plugged. If you have any more than one USB flash drive plugged into your computer, it will ask you to choose one. Which I only have one plugged in, so we're gonna skip that step. And you see, you open your ISO file of Ubuntu. Again, there's gonna be a link in the description. This is the newest version of Ubuntu, which is an LTS version. So you see, here we have Ubuntu. Set your partition scheme to GPT if you have a newer computer, MBR if you have an older computer. I have a newer computer, so I'm setting it to GPT. But like I said, if you have an older computer, you're gonna want to set it to MBR. File system and cluster size, leave those as default. You can change the volume label if you want, although it really won't do anything. Leave these the way they are and hit start. Choose write in ISO image mode, not write in DD image mode. That's not what you want. And then it'll warn you that it will destroy all data on the drive because it actually completely erases the drive. But I don't mind erasing this drive. You better make sure that it's one you're fine with erasing, because you're going to have to erase it to do this. As you can see, it's erasing the drive right now. There, now it's copying the files to the drive. You know what? I'll just cut the video right now because it's going to take a while for it to copy the files and continue recording when it's done. Okay, so the operation finished, so just close the program. And so next thing you want to do, so go into control panel. Sorry, there's a typo when I was searching it up. Okay. So, yeah. Let's see, where does it go? Hardware and sound, I think. Power options. Choose what the power button does. And this will ask for your admin privileges, but click this button here. It says change settings that are currently unavailable. And you'll see this turn on fast startup thing. Turning this off will just make it so your computer will turn on slower. However, it also makes it easier to copy files between the two operating systems of your computer. So what's better, being able to copy files between the two operating systems easier, or your computer turning on faster? I'd say being able to copy the files easier. So turn this off, save the changes, then close out control panel, and then turn off your computer. Just so you know, this tutorial is up to date with the newest version of Ubuntu, which is 20.04 LTS. Ubuntu versions, their names are the year and then point and then the month. So 20.04 because it was released in April of 2020. And now that's what Ubuntu versions are like. So yeah, let's just turn on the computer, but turn on in a special way. So your computer has what's called BIOS in it. It's like this stuff stored to like a chip known as an EEPROM chip. It is the first level of code that runs when your computer boots. You can make your computer stop there to configure some settings having to do with how it boots, or even boot from a device that's not your computer's hard drive. We're going to do both of those things in this tutorial. How you get it to just stop there instead of load what's on the hard drive varies by which company made your computer. If it's HP, like this computer is, you spam escape while it boots. Well, here's the thing. So if it's one from a different company, search online, insert name of manufacturer here, BIOS key. I do know a few other ones, like I believe MSI, it's delete to get into the settings menu, and F11 to get into the boot manager. On macOS, there isn't even a settings menu, so you just go into the boot manager by holding Option. Like on a Mac, that's what it's like. So you press the power button and just spam the escape key if you're using an HP device like I am. If it's HP, you would spam the escape key like I am. And it should take you to some menu like this. So go into BIOS setup, on this computer it's F10 to get into the BIOS setup. And then you'll see this. Go to system configuration. You actually want to set that to enable, but that's not something required for this tutorial. I just want to change something. So boot options. Make sure USB boot is enabled. Make sure secure boot is disabled. That's important that you disable secure boot. That is important that you disable it. If it's enabled, that's gonna mess things up. It's gonna make it so your computer won't boot after doing this. So make sure that you have secure boot disabled. And then set the UEFI boot order so that the OS boot manager is lower than the USB hard disk. Because the USB hard disk has to be higher up on the list for this. Then go to exit and choose exit saving changes. That's important. And then make sure your flash drive you wrote the ISO file to earlier is plugged in. Make sure that flash drive is plugged in. Just wait. It should take you into this menu known as Grub. In Grub, choose Ubuntu. And then it's gonna check the file system for defects. I recommend skipping that check. Here's how you skip that check. So while it's checking, hit Control C to skip it. And then hit escape if you want to see what it's doing while it's booting. Which is something that can be kind of cool sometimes, seeing like what it's doing while it's booting. Like this thing it shows you that is called the console. Like I said, the console shows what it's doing while it's booting. If you've seen the console of a Linux distro before, you know just how bad it is to turn off a computer while it's booting. Because like all these things it's doing shows you how bad it is to turn off a computer while it's booting. All I can say about dual booting, which is what this is a tutorial on, is dual booting is almost like making your computer have like two quote-unquote lives where it can switch between them. Okay, so first, don't choose install Ubuntu yet, choose try Ubuntu. That's the first step. So first step, you choose try Ubuntu. It's going to take you back to the console for a little bit, and then just wait. It's gonna load the thing where you try Ubuntu. Like basically, this is what it will look like when you first boot into the operating system. So go into Show Applications, go to gparted, searching through the partitions on your hard drive and the partitions on your flash drive. What I mean by partitions is basically like the way how it's split into multiple drives. So one thing I recommend doing is like opening your calculator and like, so basically look for the biggest NTFS partition of all of them. That's the one that Windows is installed to. Right click, resize / move, and then the size it asks for is in megabytes. If you wanted to get to gigabytes, do 1024 times insert number of gigabytes here. So like, you know what, for the sake of this tutorial, we'll just do 128. So you copy and paste that into free space following, and you'll see it'll make this number smaller when you click on it, and then you'll see that resize / move, and then it'll create this unallocated space, which is space that's not being taken up by any partitions whatsoever. Right click, choose new, and just leave it as default and hit add. And like you see, it has to be ext4 for your other partition. And like one thing I wanted to say about this is that, did you know that like what you're doing is you're literally taking space away from Windows. Keep that in mind, that you are taking space away from Windows and adding that space you take away to Ubuntu. That's the amount of space you'll have on Ubuntu to store your files, unless you change stuff again to take away more space from Windows and add more space to Ubuntu, which you can do. I might make a tutorial on how to do that, as it's kind of strange how you do it. But yeah, hit the check box and choose apply. If it fails to resize the anti-fs partition, there's something kind of weird you have to do, which is go back into Windows and run check disk, spell like CHKDSK C:/F. You have to do that and reboot, and then do it again and reboot again, and then it will be fixed. So just wait for everything to complete. It takes a while, sometimes, based on the speed of your drive and like speed of other parts of your computer, like the CPU as well. So like I said, it's mostly speed of your hard drive, which this is a pretty slow hard drive. Now close that menu, and then it's going to search the partitions again because they have changed because of what you did. And make sure it's the way you want it, which it is. Nothing went wrong. So then double click this thing that says install Ubuntu 20.04 LTS. I like that sound. I like that sound Ubuntu makes when you do that. So choose your language, choose your keyboard layout, connect to a Wi-Fi network. I don't want you knowing which one of these Wi-Fi networks is mine, so I'm just gonna pause the video. Okay, I'm glad I didn't show you guys which one of those Wi-Fi networks is mine, because there are a lot of them, and you don't know which one of them is mine, because I do not want you knowing which Wi-Fi network is mine. So you see, choose normal installation with these radio buttons, and with these checkboxes, make sure all of them are checked. That will give you the best experience when installing. Wait for everything. Wait for this to load. It can take a while based on like specs of your computer. Just wait. It takes a while sometimes. So like I said, I'm using a slower hard drive than the one I normally have in this computer. Like I said, this computer normally has a faster hard drive, but I'm using a slower one just for the sake of this tutorial, because, you know. Choose something else. Hit continue. Wait for it to load like this, and then you'll see this thing that says, choose, right click on the ext4 partition, choose change. Leave this the way it is. Set this to ext4 journaling file system. You don't need to check this, although you can. It won't make a difference unless you write stuff to it, which we didn't. So, mount point set to slash. It has to be slash. And then hit continue. Just wait for everything to load. Just wait. It can take a while depending on like the specs of your computer, because like I said, I'm using a not so good hard drive in this tutorial. Just for the sake of this tutorial, because I normally have a much better hard drive in my computer. Then choose install now. And then choose continue. Choose continue again. Then it'll have you ask where you are, like for time zone related things. I am near Chicago, so yeah, I'm gonna use that. Not gonna say specifically where, I'm just gonna say I'm near Chicago, not where, because I don't want you knowing where I live. And like I said, I'm using a slow hard drive in this tutorial because, like I said, I don't want to use my normal hard drive because I already have all this stuff on my normal hard drive. Like, hard drives in computers are pretty universal. There's really only two form factors of them and that kind of stuff. They're pretty universal. And then it's going to ask you to put in your name. I'm not going to use my real name. I'm just going to use my username. As you can see, I use Melsback's friend, which I'm sure you know is my username on pretty much every site I have an account for. Now choose a password. Good thing the camera is angled in a way where you can't see my keyboard. No, I did not mean to hit caps lock. There we go. If you want security, make sure this radio button is the one that's checked, the one that says require my password to log in. If you have login automatically checked, you're not going to be as secure. And then it's going to start the installation. Wait, one thing I forgot to mention. Did you know that Ubuntu is my favorite computer operating system? I might have mentioned that before on my channel. I don't remember for sure if I have, though. But yeah, it's my favorite computer operating system. Because Ubuntu is a really cool operating system. Like, if you want, you can click this arrow to see what it's doing while installing. You know what, I'm gonna pause the recording again while I wait for it to install. Okay, so it might do this. If it does, just ignore it. Like Spanish subtitles. So now, you choose restart now once the installation finishes. Now you'll see down here it says to remove the flash drive and press enter. So remove it, then press enter. And then it should take you into Grub every time you boot this time. If it doesn't, you might need to go into your boot manager and your BIOS to do it. Because remember I told you the BIOS has a boot manager, so you might need to go in there to get to Grub. But in most cases you won't have to. It'll just automatically get into Grub. You see there's an option for Ubuntu and an option for Windows. You know, let's go into Ubuntu to show you what's installed. And wait, one thing I forgot to mention about Grub. You use the arrow keys to control it, not the mouse. The mouse does nothing in Grub. You use the arrow keys. Let's see the console again. And this is taking much longer to boot than it normally does because, like I told you, I'm using a slower drive than I normally use. It's both slower and less capacity. Just wait for it to boot. It's taking a while. Like, you can see a mouse in the corner of the screen now. That's a good sign. And now the user you created in the installer will be the only user you can choose from, obviously, because you just installed it. Good thing you can't see my keyboard, otherwise you'd know my password. And now I have some good tips for Ubuntu now. First tip. Wait, no. Let's just skip this. So some good tips. First tip. You'll see something that's insert size here, gigabyte volume. That is your Windows file system, so you can actually access your files from Windows while you're in Ubuntu. So like users and then your username or the first 5 letters in your email address, depending on what kind of account you have, will take you to the root folder of your user on Windows. And look, if I go into downloads, you see, look, these are the files that we saw before. Remember Rufus, Ubuntu, all that stuff. Now let's see, another good tip. So, it's not called the command prompt in this operating, it's called a terminal. And it sounds a lot like Mac OS, doesn't it? Well, guess what? A lot of the commands are the same as they are in Mac OS. And the reason why is because Ubuntu is a Linux distro, and Mac OS uses the BSD kernel. BSD and Linux both come from the same really old operating system called Unix. Both BSD and Linux come from that. And that's why Mac OS and Ubuntu have really similar commands. And like, so here's how you would install something. Like, here's how you install programs. So, if you want to just install it from the terminal and not even go to your web browser or anything, you would do sudo apt install and then the name of the package. You know, just for this example, we'll be installing that partition manager we used earlier called gparted. You probably remember when we used that earlier. Now I type in my password, because whenever you're using a sudo command, it asks for your password. And yeah, so that's one way to install programs. That's the way it doesn't involve going into your web browser and downloading a file. Which is cool, you can install programs without doing that. Like, commands allow you to do that kind of stuff, install programs without like those files. That's called a package manager. Windows, I heard, is actually getting a package manager soon, but like Ubuntu's had a package manager, I think, since it's existed, called apt-get, or just apt, which is what we were using. And now here's how you would install a program if you have the file stored on your computer. Like, I'm going to use Google Chrome as an example. Yes, Google Chrome is available for Ubuntu, and you can see Ubuntu's default web browser is Firefox. Like I said, Google Chrome is available for Ubuntu, which is cool. So, use it just like how you use any other. So you use this just like how you'd use any other web browser. Choose download Chrome. Make sure 64-bit deb is the one selected, because Ubuntu uses deb files, not RPM files. So choose save file. Now it's been downloaded, so now we close that. Let's go to our downloads folder. You should see a file there. If you have a deb file stored to your computer, this is how you install it. Sudo dpkg-i, and then the path to the deb file. So hit enter. Again, because you're using sudo, you have to put in your password. You know, there are a lot of programs available for Ubuntu that you wouldn't think would be. Like Dolphin Emulator is available for Ubuntu. Discord is available for Ubuntu. Ubuntu is a widely used Linux distro, that's why. You can see that both Google Chrome and Gparted are now installed, which we installed earlier. Like you see Gparted, which we installed using apt-get, and Google Chrome, which we installed using dpkg. They're installed now. You see I can launch Google Chrome like that. And you can also launch Gparted. Wait, do you want to hear an interesting story as to where Gparted's name comes from? It's a shortened version of GNOME Partition Editor. GNOME is the desktop Ubuntu uses. That's why it's GNOME Partition Editor. And there we go. You've installed Ubuntu on your computer, and you still have Windows. Like, I can show you that Windows still works now. Like, that's going to be the last thing I'll do in this video before ending it. Showing you that Windows still works. You see I go into Windows Boot Manager. Sorry, that's my brother. That's my brother. He's playing a Minecraft game, like a new one that just came out not too long ago. I think it's called Minecraft Dungeons. Like I said, no one respects the fact that I'm a YouTuber, and no one likes to shut up, so that way my videos get embarrassing. But remember, you have to reboot your computer anytime you want to switch operating systems. And when I say reboot, I don't mean get into sleep mode and get it out. I mean like actually do a full reboot. Like you can see, Windows takes longer to boot than it normally does when you disable fast startup. That's normal, because it's literally called fast startup. Okay, it's almost finished. And remember, because I'm not kid-friendly anymore, I have to put inappropriate talk in all my videos, so, okay, I'm gonna do it. I'm gonna connect it to this video even. So when you plug the flash drive into your computer to, like, write the files to it and boot from it, stuff like that, it's almost like Pokemon having sex in the daycare, because something is going into something. There, I said it. And okay, so you see that Windows still works, because look, it's Windows. Okay, this is Mel's best friend signing off.